and welcome to the Juneteenth 196 2020 Special Edition. B-H Brilliant Minds Project, Inc. is honored to bring to you invited guests who will share their personal life stories from past to present. B-H Brilliant Minds Project, Inc. understands the importance of leaving a legacy behind after we're gone. We know that we are responsible for keeping our stories alive, creating opportunities for the voices of our communities to be heard and seen. The Juneteenth 196 2020 Special Edition will capture the essence of why we celebrate and honor the back and shoulders of our ancestors, who we are standing on, their faith, their resilience, their strength, their blood, sweat, and tears are the building blocks for the generation to come. We are blowing into the winds of creation as we create and prepare the brilliant minds of the future towards excellence. We also want to share that if you are participating in this Zoom interview or dial in or call in, you are giving B-H Brilliant Minds the authorization to record you, your voice, and your comments, and take your pictures. So we are grateful and thankful that you have tuned in to the Juneteenth 196 program this evening. This evening we have Michael Nobles. How you doing, Mr. Nobles?
Good evening. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's a pleasure having you.
I'd like to open up with libations and bring in the ancestors to bless this meeting and be present to give us energy and support as we share this experience. So I'd like to take a few minutes, and those that are here, just call out an ancestor that you want to welcome and invite into our session this evening. And I'll start with calling John Nobles. And
Willie Howard.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Maxine Moore.
Ashe. Ann Posey.
Victoria Cabell. Ashe.
Ashe. Wendy Howard. Ashe.
Ashe. Tanya Thompson.
Ashe. Vashti Smith.
Ashe.
Ashe.
John Nobles Jr. Ashe.
Ashe. Mr. Pearson. Ashe.
Ashe.
James Pearson.
John. Ashe. John Nobles Sr. Ashe.
Ashe. Harriet Tubman.
Ashe.
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 Freddie Cottrell. Ashe.
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 Ernestine Cottrell. Ashe.
Ashe.
Eunice Nealon. Ashe.
Ashe. Sojourner Truth. Ashe.
Ashe.
Our fighting warriors and sheroes and heroes. Ashe.
Ashe. Okay.
James Traylor. Ashe. Sorry.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Thank you so very much for allowing us to invite our ancestors in. It is so important to know that they're with us every day. They're looking down on us. They're smiling. They're asking us to know for such a time as this is when we were born to make a difference in the world. And we're so honored and grateful. Definitely honored and grateful to have you here, Michael. My question for you would be, it's kind of 3 questions in one, but we can answer one at a time. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, your family, and your passion.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Tall order, but it's all good.
Okay. Upbringing. I was born and raised in Oakland, California. I'm an Oakland native. I am the oldest of 5 sisters and a brother. I I was raised by my father, and I don't call her my stepmother, my father and mother, even though my biological mother lived across town. So I was raised with three parents. I had the blessing of having two mothers. And as a young man, growing up in Oakland in the 60s, 70s, just when Oakland was good, but I came into adulthood, unfortunately, during the crack epidemic in West Oakland. And so at that time, even though my father saw me going to college, I chose the military. So I enlisted, and at the time I was looking at all the things going on. I was 19. I was soon to be father. I had no clue, and the military just seemed to be the right thing for me. So I enlisted. Um, I am a father of three amazing adults. I have my daughter, 37, and my two sons, 28 and 27 years old. And then so, okay, I kind of, yeah, that's my family.
It's okay.
Okay. And then the upbringing, I was fortunate to be raised in the village, like literally the village. Every household every family household I grew up in had the father and a mother in that household. I grew up with a family where there were 7 men head of households. I did not know a single parent growing up in my family. Not to say we didn't have them, but the immediate family that I had, my father, his brother, I had older cousins. There was a father and a mother in the household. And so that was the village. And we celebrated every holiday, every event. You know, those 7 men brought their families. It was a cookout, it was a birthday party. So I grew up in a village of households led by men. But the funny thing was, as I got adults, I realized it wasn't just the men, it was the men and the women, the mother and father. It was a partnership. And as a young man, I wanted that for my daughter. And so I followed their footsteps, got married. Unfortunately, new dad, new soldier, new husband. That was not the right trifecta. It didn't work. And at the time, Uncle Sam won. And so I was very, very interested in the military. I enlisted and became a field medic, but I was primarily assigned to combat units. So I had a very intense career in the military until I was injured, and then needed to come home. And that village was there. That village was open arms. I came home to that village. And so that sort of upbringing mixed with the experience of going away, talking to other guys and hearing how they grew up, and my exposure to different things in the world and how things went. A passion was being nurtured and developed, and I didn't know it. And the passion was to help at-risk people. As a combat medic, you can that is helping someone who is most at risk in the most at-risk situation. And I didn't even realize that I was developing this passion. And so, then the passion just became, how do I help people? And when I came home after, my recovery and being rehabilitated from my injury, I started to look at my community and I saw all the damage. I saw all the despair, and I saw friends who, it's like, what happened? And it was the drug epidemic, and all the destruction that I later learned comes from systematic oppression. And so I having the upbringing of all these strong men, and then my father, Dr. Wade Nobles, being this scholar and this pioneer with Black psychology, and he had a passion to help Black communities recapture and restore their cultural essence and their cultural excellence, like he likes to say. I realized that I was in a perfect place. How can I help bring that back?
Yes.
And I started working in schools, and interesting enough, I ended up working. Well, let me back up. I went to school to get my degree in biology because being a medic, I learned so much about science. And I was like, man, if my science teacher had instilled this in me in high school, what else could I have done? So I wanted to be a biology so I could go back to high schools in Oakland and teach kids of color how fun science can be. So I took a job as a special ed teacher in Daly City, tutor, special ed tutor, so I can start to learn how to work with kids. And I learned that 90% of the kids in this special ed class were children of color. And of those 90% of kids, half of them did not have any learning difficulties. Wow. They were placed there because of social and behavioral issues.
Yeah.
And it was the day that I was working. And he was in 11th grade, and they said he had a speech impediment. And they told me, he would never know how to get a really real job. So I was showing him how, and this was in the 90s. So I was showing him how to read the one ads in the newspaper. We remember the one ads. And so we were talking about what he wanted to do. And I learned that his father was in the military. His mother was Filipino, but she was a Filipino prostitute. And when he was born, because he came out dark skinned, that shamed her family. So they sent him at 3 years old to America to live with his Filipino mother, a grandmother, and uncle who neither spoke English.
Oh, wow.
So here's this Black kid who can't speak English, started school. English was his second language, and they deemed him having a speech impediment.
Wow.
So I connected with a teacher who was Filipino who spoke fluent Tagalog. And I took them out to lunch, and they sat for an hour and a half and spoke the whole time. After that, talking to that teacher, he said, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this kid. English is his second language. So I took that back to the special ed teacher. Unfortunately, she was, non-African American. And she told me I wasn't qualified to tell her that English is not his second language.
Oh,
and
my.
at that moment, I realized I don't want to be a biology teacher. I don't want to be stuck in a classroom following these rules. I need to be someplace where I can reach more of our kids. And so after that, I realized that's not what I want to do. And I took another job at a high school that was a charter school that was focusing on diversity. And so I got involved with them and really started to help the children of color really understand the importance of education. And if education wasn't your route, wasn't what you want to do, there's other ways to make it in life. And so I developed a community service learning project where they would pick a job they want to do, and I would set up where they could go volunteer at that place to see if they like it. And so I did that for a little while, and then an opportunity came up to run a program that my father had created called the HAWK program, High Achievement, Wisdom, and Knowledge, which was a manhood development program for African American boys. And so at the time it was, I was like everybody. A lot of kids don't want to be anything their parents are doing. That's what you do. I don't like you trying to make me like you. And so initially I didn't want to take the job, but at the same time I didn't have a job. So I was like, okay, I'll go do this for a little while until something comes along. And I ended up working at a school that I actually attended when I was a kid in the neighborhood I grew up in. And so when I got there, it was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I'm coming back. And when I realized I was working with children of my peers, of people I grew up with, and I'm seeing the effects on these children from the drug epidemic, I was just drawn. I felt like I was placed there to take care of my kids.
Yes.
And so I ended up working for Oakland Public Schools for almost 8 years in this one school. And, you know, I survived 5 principals.
Wow.
I survived, like, I think I was the 3rd longest working employee there at the time. And it really helped me see that it was beyond passion. I believe it was my calling to be, because of how I was raised, to help families understand the significance of family.
Wow.
And in that, I started looking at how do I help mold these young men to want to be pillars of their community, even when their community is being destroyed again by systematic oppression, which is something they had no concept of. And so I took the approach of I have I have sons your age. I'm gonna treat you like I treat my son.
Mm-hmm.
When I met their parents, I said, I'm gonna treat your child like he's mine, you know, and I had to go up against principals and say, I'm gonna treat these kids like they're mine. I'm from this community. You're not. I
Mm-hmm.
know these parents. You don't, you know, and when I looked up and I had parents coming to the school looking for me. They didn't want to talk to the principal. They wanted to talk to me. What's going on with my child? What can I do? Why is this teacher calling me? Why is this teacher doing this? And so after I did that, I realized that there are so many things that are affecting children when they get to school. So many things that are affecting children before they even get to school, but nobody's addressing that. So I took it upon myself to really get involved with the children, meet the parents. I would show up at homes. I became that old school person from school.
Right.
Hey, your son ain't come to school for 3 days. What's going on? You know, hey, I've been calling you because this is going on with your kid. Why are you not taking my calls? And a lot of times it felt so good when I knock on the door and look at somebody I've been knowing since 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Oh, you Mr. Nobles. Yep, that's me. So then I became, you know, this extended family. And that's where my passion developed, because then it was like, okay, what can you do? What can you bring? What do you have that you can give and try to make a difference? And then it just became that, you know, my goal was to really help change the way people see Black men in the community.
That's right.
You know, Black mothers have been holding it down for years, and that's been a wonderful thing. And not to take anything from them, but Black fathers actually want to help. They just don't know how. And the system is set up not to let them help. Between child welfare, between child support, the court system, everything is this real slick kind of anti-man thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you ever work in child welfare, I've seen cases when I've worked in child welfare where the mother is the person on the case, but the mother's deceased. Why are we referring to based on the mother? She's deceased, and dad has had full custody the whole time because the
My goodness.
system did not want to acknowledge the importance of a father. They're quick to say, well, that child's act like that because his daddy ain't around. Well, then help the daddy be around. Don't fight the daddy when he wants to be around. And so I just really became dedicated to helping fathers reconnect, reunify with their families, and be active in their children's lives. And then that grew into family reunification, which is
That's
what
right.
I've been my dedication, probably close to 10 years now. What can I do that will help support family reunification? And I stopped limiting myself. Whatever came up, whatever opportunity came up. Oh, you want me to help you do that? Okay, look, then, but you got to know this is where I'm coming from. I'm looking for daddy. You know, when I start working with CPS programs, my first question is, excuse me, man, where's the father? He ain't around. What? He's somewhere. If he's breathing, where is he? Let's call him. Let's find him. You know, I don't care if he's in Florida. I'm sure he wants to be involved, and I need him to tell me he doesn't want to be involved.
Absolutely.
So that's where my passion developed, just to really, you know, anything I look at, I'm dedicated to the reunification of the Black family.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Oh my God. So this just lines up with my next question for you is that why did you choose, why did you choose the profession you are in, or did your profession choose you? So you kind of touched on
Hands
base
down,
on it, but go ahead.
It chose me.
Okay.
Because in that coming back while I was in college to get my biology degree, I was working at Bank of America because I was like, well, I'm gonna make me some money, but this career really chose me. I can say that in 20 plus years of doing this work, I've probably worked maybe 10 different places.
Right.
And I can say I've been blessed, and it's an honor to say I only applied for one of those jobs.
Wow.
Every
See,
other job,
that's
somebody came and found me, and I start to learn that you're doing what you're doing. I had to tell myself what I'm doing right now is preparing me for what's coming next. I stopped
absolutely,
looking for what's next. I just had to,
absolutely.
I let the universe and I let the ancestors put me where I'm supposed to be. And so far, they have not steered me wrong.
That's right.
I have youth that are early 30s who have children who I knew them when they were 10. I have
Wow.
one young man, he calls me Pops. And if you tell
Oh.
him I'm not his dad, you got a problem. I mean, I just, I went with my heart.
And you
And
know what? That's what it is. It's the love that you project, and people know
mhm.
when you phony and when you real, especially
Oh
young
yeah,
folks.
yeah.
They
Oh,
you can't
especially
you can dupe
nowadays.
other people, but you can't dupe them.
Can't do too many people. And it's
No,
such a blessing to know that even if I don't see them,
absolutely,
blessing to know that I was put here to, if nothing else, give them an example of what
absolutely.
this looks like. And I pay homage, and I give that thanks to the fact that I grew up in what I call a 7 household village that had
Yeah.
men,
Yes.
and to this day, 5 of those men are still living.
Wow.
I can call any of them and be like, hey, uncle, hey, cousin. And, they're giving me the wisdom of they're in their 70s. I'm in my 50s. I'm still gaining so much wisdom because I have these men to go to and I've watched them. And they are the ones who gave me examples of what a Black
It's
man is supposed to be.
supposed to be doing.
Even
Oh
when I
my
wasn't
God, this
trying to
is
hear it.
it's so
Even when
crazy because that was
I hear it.
my other question was the importance of brotherhood. Share that importance to me about brotherhood. Why is
Oh
it
my.
so significant for brotherhood?
Let me say this. I am also blessed that those 5 men actually have been meeting every month for 25 years. And
Wow.
now that we're in this pandemic with the Zoom, I've been invited to come to their group because I navigate the Zoom, and the knowledge that I'm getting from them when I'm hearing them tell their stories. They're all retired and they're talking about their stories and they're reminiscent of when they were growing up and when they were kids, and just really listening to it. And so to answer the question of why is brotherhood important, because you learn from your brother. As a Black man, none of us can do this by ourselves. Though all of those men that I mentioned growing up with all had successful careers, all raised their families, and except for the two that, you know, have left us due to health reasons, everybody's still here. And
Wow.
so they give me the inspiration that some mornings when I wake up feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm getting old. I'm looking at them going, I got years to go. You
Right.
know, I got years
Yes.
to go. And there's so much more for me to look for. But I think outside of that, brotherhood is most important because there's nothing like talking to somebody about what you're going through. And even if they're your peer, your age, they can understand it because they're probably going through it at the same time. And you start to share information. You start to get support to let you know that, you know what, you ain't crazy. You know what, you're thinking the right way. And when you don't know what to do, I'm here. You can call me. I'll be there for you. And so to me, the importance of brotherhood, particularly for Black men, African American men, is just to remind you that you're not supposed to do this alone, and you don't have to.
Absolutely. Yes.
You don't have
Because
to.
society is set up as though we are supposed to do things by ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's all about me, 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 me. But tell us about Ubuntu. Tell us about what our culture say, you know, and the importance of our culture and our mindset, African American centered culture. Share a little bit about that.
You know, when I think about culture, and I'm glad you said African American culture, because I grew up, my father does a lot of work around trying to the restoration of African culture.
Yes.
But growing up when I did, there's an African American culture that is slightly different, and that is the culture of being Black in America. This is how I describe it. Being Black in America. And being Black in America is more about the experience you have as a Black person living in America. I've traveled to other countries and I've been called Black American, and I'm going, that don't even sound right. But when I think about it from a different perspective, I am American because the concept of race really doesn't exist. There is no Black race. There's a human race. But there are, your nationality is American, and your ancestry is African. And so your African ancestry, that ties into the stuff that's in your DNA. And according to from Dr. Joyce DeGruy, it is epigenetics. It's the experience. And so if you believe that what your ancestors who endured slavery experienced is part of your DNA, that was part of being Black in this country. And then you take that with, for me, growing up in a time where going to college was just a matter of, could my parents pay the check or could I get a loan? It wasn't nobody stopping me at the door. You know, did they treat me bad? Yes, they might have. But if I learned how to navigate that, then I could do anything I wanted to do. And I use Barack Obama as an example. Here's a man who's only 2 years older than me. And if you look at it socioeconomically, I raised better than he did. And he navigated the system to become president of the United States.
Come on now.
Tells you that I can do that. And it's because of the Black experience I have living in this country. And so when I think about culture, I think about everything from Africa to the culture that we have as Africans, where we gather.
Yes.
That's the Juneteenth.
That's the Juneteenth.
If you look at, I tell people, if you look at Black men in most underserved neighborhoods, and you see a bunch of Black men hanging out at a liquor store, you go to Africa, you'll see Black men hanging out somewhere. It's the same thing, but for different reasons. That's part of our culture seeping in. Men in Africa get up in the morning and gather, talk about what they're going to do before they go out and do it for the day. And then they come out, they meet up at the same spot. Hey, man, I did this, I did that. Then they go home. The problem here is the men gather, and half of them don't even know why they do that. That's culture. And so part of what we have to do is we have to show them why they're doing some of the things they're doing. It isn't just because you want to hang out at the liquor store so you can buy liquor. It's because there's something in you that tells you, even though I don't have a job, even though I ain't got no money, I'm going to get up and go stand on 8th and Adeline because that's where my buddies are going to be. And we talk about all kind of stuff all day long. And so that's the culture stuff that we have to be able to identify where it came from, why we do it, and then shift its purpose.
Absolutely.
And if we shift its purpose, then we'd be like, oh, I do this because this is part of being African. So you take all that and that becomes the African American culture. What do we do because we are Americans of African ancestry? Now we can identify those things and show how they're positive, and repeat them and enhance them and pass them in a positive way to our children, that's how we keep our culture alive. And that's because then that becomes the community, the village, the family.
And you know, that's why it was so important. It's everything happens for a reason, is what I believe in. Divine time, divine order. So not being able to do the actual Juneteenth, this allowed me to do a special edition. And this is Juneteenth 196. So it's about us being able to have live documents, legacy, keeping our stories alive. This information being passed down to our people, other people, being able to look at or hear someone else's life and say, wow, I've experienced the same thing. How did they get through? Telling their personal stories is important. And I tell people all the time, one thing I do know, you're going to be with you for the rest of your life. So you might as well get to know who you are and the things you know
who you are.
Exactly. And then not only that, is that your story, good, bad, ugly, challenging, counts. And don't let nobody take that away from you. And you got to know that every part of your life is significant. So it doesn't matter. It's the seasons that you may be in. It's the challenges. It doesn't matter. But however, it counts, and don't let nobody take it away. And that's, for me, it's been like my life thing, is to make sure I tell people stories, you know, and let them try to inspire them and encourage them that their story counts.
And let me piggyback on that, because one thing about telling your story is you never know what lesson someone else will get from your story.
Yes.
Because there is a lesson in everybody's life story. I mean, there are parts of, you know, I gave you brief, but there are things that when the time comes in the right place, and I really, really tell the deepest part of my story. People will be like, and you are still here, and you aren't crazy, or you not on drugs. Exactly, because everybody has a lesson in their life story. And I think as Black men, that I think it's important. I'm really honored that you're doing this, because I think that as Black men, we need a platform just to tell our story, not about being,
you got me,
a scholar, whether you're, you know, a high ranking position, anything, just that as a Black man, you have a story. And like you said, if they have an opportunity to share it, this story, my story, might resonate with someone 5 years older than me. It might resonate with the 15-year-old. It might resonate with a 9-year-old girl who watches this video in 20 years and go, yes, that's what my dad went through. Now I understand my father. Or, wow, I wonder, did my dad have those issues? Or whatever it could be. And I think it's important that as Black men, we're not ashamed of what we've gone through. This country has made it seem like if you weren't going to school, you didn't go get your degree, you didn't do this, you didn't do everything the way they said you do it.
Say that, say it.
You're a failure. You're a failure.
Right.
And when I look back, I was just having one of those thoughts the other day, and I was going, wow, okay, I remember when I was 10 years old, what I thought I'd be doing. And it is nowhere near this. You know, when I look back at my career, and I'm going, wow, I've actually had a 25 plus year career.
Right.
Being, you know, then when I really think about it, since I was at 19, I have been in some job or another where I was helping other people who were at risk in one way or the other.
Wow.
How is that possible if that's not my calling?
Come on.
How is that possible if it's not my calling?
Come on.
I didn't go to college to do this work.
That's right.
I just got up every day and I got to find a job, and I went to go do this, and then
direction. You know, again, it's the roads we travel. And what I know is that for such a time as this, we were born in this time, like our ancestors. The things that they did in their time, they were born for that. Because if we were supposed to be born there, we would have been born there. We were born right now. So what is it in this time? Like what they did is that your responsibility and what you're supposed to be doing. You know, how do you give back to the community? How do you inspire someone else? You know, go ahead.
So to kind of piggyback and answer that question, I was told my father, you know, for a long time he would say stuff and I just be like, what are you talking about? There he go. You know, but then as I get older, he was giving me seeds.
Yes.
He was giving me the seeds.
Yes.
So I could plant them.
Yes.
And he told me, he said, you're going to get the seeds. And sometimes your job is just to plant the seeds. Someone else is going to come by and nurture the ground. And then when those things start to grow, it's somebody else's job to come and prune them. And then someone else to pick the fruit. And so, excuse me, I look back and I realized my father gave me a lot of seeds over the years. And one thing he said to me that really keeps me motivated to do this work is, you never know. This is when I was working with youth. You never know when you're talking to the next Malcolm X.
Come on,
or you're
now.
talking to the next MLK. He
Yes.
says, so it's not for you to know, but make sure that what you're giving them what they need, because you don't know what you're going to say that's going to turn that person that direction. And so, you know, that helped me do this work, you know, and I tell people I've been blessed. I did this because I also was told, find something you like and the money will come.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed because the money keeps coming, you know, and you know, I'm not sitting up like, you know, I ain't sitting up on the hill and living rich, but I'm blessed because I love what I do. I wake up every morning happy about the job I have and knowing that in one way or another, I'm helping somebody. And now, you know, having the opportunity to run a nonprofit, being a supervisor of people, now I'm in a position where I'm coaching other people who do the work on how to do the work and how for them to tap into their passion, for them to identify, why do you do this and how can you do it better? And that's what I do now. That's what I do now. And so I may not directly touch families, but I know that the people I'm working, that I supervise, people I work with, I'm helping them learn how to touch families in a way that makes a difference.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, it's a calling. It's not because it's in you, it's in your heart and you love it. And people, the love exudes out of you into other people. And they know you're not just jiving them. They know you really mean well, you know. And with that, we were talking about keeping the legacy alive and keeping the documentation alive, keeping our stories alive. It is so important. I would encourage people to try to find, if you're an African American or a Black or brown, a person of color, find your tribe, find your ancestors, find who you are, DNA, because that tells you something about you. You know, and I didn't get the opportunity to do the DNA with you all, but my son last year paid for Christmas, had me do the DNA. And I just re-looked at it the other day. I am 39% from the Macaroon area. And then it's 32% Nigerian.
Wow.
And then it's crazy. And I'm like, oh my God. So that's the next, well, Lord knows if I keep, you know, thank God, I'll keep me alive. I'm going to do the research. I have to, it's in my spirit, and it's been yearning. It's been calling me. I have to find out where my folks are from. And it's for me, satisfaction for me because of the work that I do. And I want to bring them into always make it. I know when I go and when I do the different things, I know they're there with me, but I want to know exactly who they are. You know, the tribe, or I can call on the name of the tribe.
I'm gonna. Yes, we did. We in the opportunity, the DNA things that we were doing through the institute were the direct tribe.
See,
DNA.
that's what I want.
And so I'm going to strongly suggest do the African ancestry. And when I did that one, it was able to tell me my DNA matched up with 2 different tribes out of Africa. And it's funny because I grew up hearing, are you Ethiopian? Are you Eritrean? I'm like, no, I'm from Oakland. Right. And one of the tribes that I am a descendant of is from the northeastern part of Africa.
Wow.
Now that tells me that not only is our DNA connected, other people are recognizing it. Yes. And that means because we see each other.
There we go.
We see each other. You know, we see each other even when we don't know who's looking. And so I want to strongly encourage that African ancestry is the one that takes you straight to that tribe, and you can research where that tribe is from. You know,
so all really I have to do we just pull up African ancestral
do AfricanAncestry.com.
Okay.
And you can order it online.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's the same process, but they have the biggest database of collection of DNA for people in Africa. I have a close friend who did one. Wow. And she was able to trace her family, and then she went to Louisiana where her people are from, and she's actually seen plaques.
Oh, I got to go. Oh
with
my
her
Lord,
people's with her people's name on it, her Nigerian family's name on it. She was able to connect from Africa to here, and there's only 2 generations missing.
Whoa, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do.
It's significant, and it really gives you a sense of who you are.
Yes.
Pre-slavery. See, the thing is understanding we aren't descendants of slaves.
Come on.
Slavery was a part of our history. Gotcha. I don't come from slaves.
Right.
I come from, on my mother's maternal side, I come from Northeast Africa. On my father's side, I forget that, but on my mother, I also know that part of me is Irish because my great-grandfather great-grandmother was a plantation owner.
Wow. And we have Wales. It says Wales in there. It had a little Irish Scotland. I was like, what?
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. You know? And so I think it's important when you start talking about culture, it's also important to understand all of your cultures, not just your African culture.
Yes.
Because, you know, some people, not all black people in America came from slaves. Some people were from Africans who came to America not through slavery. So doing the DNA will tell you the truth, will help you find out, did my people come here through slavery, or did my people come through because they were free world travelers? You know, so really researching your culture to me has been more about finding out who I am from Africa. It's finding out who I am in totality.
Yes.
In totality. My great-great-grandmother husband came to America, bought a plantation, and set everybody free in the middle of slavery. Wow. Slaves couldn't go anywhere, so she let them stay. The slave, their son, fell in love with a woman whose mother was African and Native American. They had a child who was my grandfather.
Wow. And you know, that is so rich and exciting to me. To find out the information.
I'm proud to be a black man, knowing my great-great-grand, because it didn't take away from who I am as a black man. That's why I say it's important to understand an African American culture. You know, and what does that look like today? There's African culture, there's African American culture, and then if you really want to get deep and political, there is a Black culture.
Come on.
And that's a whole nother piece that we have to be able to accept. And to me, the Black culture is how we respond, how we've learned to function living as Black people in this country. We've had to evolve to do things a certain way, because when I walk out of my house and I go downtown or I go into the bank, they see a Black man. They don't see an African American. They don't see the great grandson of an Irish plantation owner. They see a Black man. And so I've had to learn how to navigate that. Some people have said we've had to learn how to manage our Blackness. I don't manage my Blackness.
That's right.
I navigate through this country as a Black man, which is very different. And to me, that also is the importance of brotherhood. How do we share these strategies, these tactics to go from my front door to my destination and give back, and not let those demons out there that are looking for me take me out? That's the importance of brotherhood, to teach each other the strategies of how to go and come back. How do we support each other? How do I teach my sons? I used to teach my sons, and I hated this. You teach my sons what to do if they hear gunshots. That's not African American. That's Black. That's a Black experience. There's difference. And so I think when you start talking about culture, we have to be able to break down all the different levels of the culture that we're a part of as Black people, as African Americans, as the African descendants. We got so many layers. You stick to one, I think that's where we fall short. We have to be open, understand we're very complex people in general, and especially culturally, we're extremely complex. And I think it's important that we understand that, we share that, and we help each other navigate whichever one of those cultures we have to put up front.
Where I'm now clear on my other part of my project of what I have to do that I've been working on. That so I will be calling on you, and we have some work to do together. And we're going to be having that candid conversation and sharing those strategies of what you're talking about. For 2021, it has to be done. It's going to start with us. We was just talking about our call on what we got to do. So for such a time as this, you and I believe in others, was born to be able to bring that conversation forward.
Yeah. I look at it like this. I tell people I'm an old soldier.
Hey,
it's a strategy on the battlefield.
Come on now.
And we have to know how to strategize, because we have to identify what is our mission, and we have to strategize how we get there. You know, in the civilian world, I call it a chess game. You got to play a chess game. You got to think what 3 moves you're going to make, and what 3 moves will the person, white supremacy, the government, whoever it is, what moves you got to think ahead. We have to, as a people, we have to get out of reactionary mode.
Yes.
Because when you're reacting, someone else is always controlling you. So we have to stop and think, what is it that we want, and how can we get it? And, you know, when I used to work with the boys, I used to tell them, you know, the white man won't let me do this. And I just say, tell me where he's at, because he must be about 15 feet tall, 500 pounds, because a white man ain't never stopped me from doing anything. So where's this white man that's stopping you from doing something? It's the concept.
Psychologically up here.
Psychologically.
Yes.
So let's take this and say, where is he? If you don't see him, he can't stop you. That's what I teach, you know, try to teach my boys. You could do anything you put your mind to. We've heard that growing up, and now it's starting to really make sense. If I decide to do it, not just doing it, but how do I strategize to do it so that I can be successful? And again, I use Barack Obama as my own personal example that this country has a roadmap to success.
Yes.
And we all could look at it and follow it. We just have to choose that we want to. Absolutely. And as Black men, we have to be willing to take responsibility to make things better for our communities.
That's right. Wow, this has been awesome. Oh my God. So my other question I wanted to ask you is, what would you like to create or share to the world for your legacy? What would you like to do? Right.
What would I like to create or share with the world?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a big one. You know, I would probably have to say, um, I would want to create, and I know in some form or fashion there's been other things, but I would want to create some sort of institution where we really focused on teaching and training young Black boys how to be Black men. Like for real, not just, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of organizations, a lot of programs, but I don't really mean like almost like a boot camp where, we take these 10-year-olds and they stay with us until they're 15. And when they come out, they have the understanding of what it is to be a man. And they have an understanding of the importance of them being fathers, if that's their choice. And they understand the importance of planning families. We hear the words Planned Parenthood, but we know that's just, to me, that's a cover for, stopping us from having families. But I'm talking about teaching these young men that if you choose to be a father, this is what comes with this. If you choose to be a husband, this is what comes with this. Really teaching them the essence of what it is to be a Black man in this country. Right. I would want to be a part of something like that. And, what would I want to share with the world? I don't want to share it with the world. I want to share it with my community. I'm selfish. Okay. I want to share it with my community.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
You know what? Be a father to your kids. I don't care what's going on with their mother. If you got to grin and say, hey, how you doing? Nice hairstyle. You do whatever it takes to be a part of your child's life. I don't care. That's what you're supposed to do. And take responsibility for your community. I think that's one. And I think if we as Black men start to do that, the world will hear about it. So yes. I want to start at home. I want to start in my community. I want to get these men to take responsibility for their community, restore their community, revitalize their culture, and reunify with their families. The world will follow.
That's right. Well, with this COVID-19, we're able to now do that. It's a whole new world order. So to me, it's given us the opportunity. How do we come back stronger and
exactly
plan on how do we create situations and solutions for ourselves? Because it's allowing us to be able to do that. This is what I think. That's just my opinion. Go ahead.
No, I agree. I've had a conversation with one of my staff back in April, and another African American male, and we made a commitment to each other to support each other and how we're going to be better after COVID than when we came into COVID.
That's right.
And I did something as simple as it took me about 4 months, but I stopped eating meat because now I feel better. What can I do to be better when I come out of when this pandemic is over, whether it stops tomorrow or stops next year? What am I doing now to be better when I come out of that? And I think that if we start to think about when there's a challenge,
yes,
let the situation be the challenge. Let the challenge be how to be better when it's over.
That's right.
How can we be better when this is over?
Right. And not bitter, but
not
better.
Not bitter. And again,
because
we have the ability now in the platforms that are given to us. Zoom.
Come on now.
A father in Florida can talk to his kid in Canada once a week for free.
Yes.
There's technology now. How do we use what's available?
Absolutely.
We got to stop always being on the back end of something. The technology is there, so that means the obstacles now are gone. You don't have to buy a plane ticket every summer. You don't have to do this. You can get on here and get on the screen and talk to your kids for hours.
Yeah.
And that's just as important as showing up, because now you and that child can develop this relationship.
Absolutely.
So we
Wow.
have
And
to be
you
better
touched
afterwards.
on a little part of my other question was about self-care. What are you doing for self-care? And you just shared a little bit about the meat, not eating meat, but what else?
I changed my diet. I I was the person who was at one point in my career, I was going to save the world. So I was working crazy hours. I don't do that anymore. I can only do so much. So I make myself rest. Probably last month was the first time I actually had a weekend where I did zero. I laid in the bed and vegged out on TV. I didn't feel bad that I wasn't trying to do something productive. And I
Absolutely.
think that's also something that got us to believe that if you're not working 90 hours a week,
Yeah.
Monday through Sunday, then you're a failure. No, you're not. You have to rest. You have to acknowledge that our bodies were designed to work if we get rest. We have to rest. So, you know, I'm almost ashamed to say it, embarrassed, but I'm in bed by 9 o'clock most nights now, and I might not go to sleep, but I'm laying
But you
down
resting.
and I'm resting and I'm just
Yes.
relaxing. And I find I find the silliest TV show, the silliest thing on television,
Me
the
too.
silliest movie. People say, well, why don't you watch this? That's too
No.
close to real life for me. I
Yes.
want to break from that. I need to
Yes.
escape. And now with
Absolutely.
the pandemic, I can't physically escape. So I watch silly movies about
Me
other
too.
cultures doing silly stuff to say,
Yes.
see, it ain't just us doing crazy stuff in the world.
Exactly.
Humor. I need
Yes.
humor. I do that. Another thing I do now is I reach out to friends that I probably don't talk to because it's important to have human connection.
Yes.
It's important to laugh. I got a friend, we get on the phone and we say some of the craziest stuff to each other, just making fun, just to get each other to laugh,
Yes.
because that's healthy. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have humor, especially
Yes.
with what's going on, especially with this
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty of this health pandemic, uncertainty of the government. People don't realize when the government is unstable, you actually feel unstable because there's a sense of dependency that we have of the government,
Mm-hmm.
even though we don't want to admit it. But we need to know the government is in solid and everything is cool. And when you don't have that, you got to do something. So, my self-care is rest and humor.
Right. And you know what? This pandemic is also putting things, as we said earlier, back in proper perspective. What you thought you had to do, COVID-19
Oh,
shut it down and said, and like you said, for resting and all that, you go, 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 go. And then you're gonna have a
mm-mm.
heart attack or a stroke or something, and you can't
You
even move. So you said it right
exactly.
about being able to be still, listen to your thoughts, listen, because when you sit up there and I was saying you're gonna be with you for the rest of your life, you can then control the stuff that you be thinking. You be like, oh my God, why did I think of that? And then it's giving you time to take out this
Exactly.
toxic
Exactly.
stuff that we see
Exactly.
every day, that we see on the TV, that we hear on the internet. All of this
I mean, I
toxic,
agree
being
with
able to
you with
release.
yeah, I agree with you with that part about, we just have to stop and,
Mhm.
let ourselves just think and let ourselves just be. We
Be,
have to just be because we forgot how to
be.
just be. I
Yes.
was a movie theater addict. I was in the movie theater every weekend. If there's a movie coming out, I got to go see it. You couldn't pay me to go to the movie theater. And I realized I didn't need that. You know, I die. I go out to eat socially. You don't need that.
Mhm.
All these things that these comforts of this country,
Right.
this pandemic has helped us show what do you really need. And what do you need? You need
Absolutely.
family, loved
Absolutely.
ones. You need a connection to other humans. And you
Yes.
mentioned earlier that, we've gotten this thing that we need to be independent. That's not who we are culturally.
That's right.
And if you look at any other culture, you look at the Native Americans, you look at the Asians, you look at the Latinos, you look at the Africans, there are communal people.
Mhm.
So if we come from communal people, how are we going to do it by ourselves? And I
Mhm.
really believe that those that are functioning saying, I did this all by myself, I don't need help, you're really not happy.
No.
You're not spiritually, you're not emotionally, you're not mentally happy. You're just existing. There's a difference between living and existing. And as a people, we need to get back to how do we live?
Yes.
And we live as a community. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's a saying, I am because we are.
Yes.
We are because I am. And I believe that's true. You know,
Yes.
and a lot of times, one person that people is funny, you know, I'm a big fan of Tupac Shakur. And when you listen to his music,
I do too.
he says,
Yep.
he,
Yeah.
he says, I, and people misinterpret thinking he did it. He's not saying I, he's saying I as a black man, because my brothers experienced it, I experienced it. And that's how we have to function as African Americans, black people, however you identify yourself. But one thing we have to do is recognize that we are part of a culture of people who are connected. So I can't walk around here talking about, I got this on my own. I'm going to make it on my own. Y'all don't want to do it. I got mine. You can get yours. No, I'm not here today because I did this.
Come
The
on.
ancestors guided me. You know, I have a family member who has a tattoo that says birth by and her mother's name and raised by her grandmother's name.
Wow. Yeah.
That signifies it took two people to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think about it, we all have that same thing. I was birthed by my mother and I was raised by my father and another mother.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot. You know, and we have to identify that I didn't get here because I went out there and worked hard, because the ancestors guided me and I used the tools that my father and my parents gave me.
That's right.
That was a collective effort to get me here. If I walk around and say, I'm a self-made man, nope, I'm not. My children helped me get here.
Yeah.
Because having children made me want to be a better father. I wanted to be an example to my daughter of what a man is. I wanted my sons to see this is how a black man functions, not what you see walking out the house, not what you see, of course, with some of your friends. I need you to see me. And my son saw me get up every day and go do a job. But at the same time, they saw me put them first. You know, and that to me, that's what's important. We have to know that not only do what we're giving, we have to acknowledge who has influenced us to do what we do.
Absolutely.
You know, in no way that goes back to us being complex. There is no one way for us to do anything we do in this world. It's a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
And
you was talking about, when you say a complex, that's you're a complex, beautiful, unique creature.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
we have all of that. We're complex, but it's all good. And because every person and everybody is unique and no fingerprint is the same. So don't go through the world trying to be somebody else. Be who you are. Try to be the best you and uplift people. And you know what, when you said earlier, to me, some of the things, keeping this thing in perspective with the COVID-19 is that showing us the priorities. What's needed?
What's needed? Yeah.
What's needed?
What do you need? And so far, 8 months later, there's a whole lot of stuff we realize we don't need.
Absolutely.
But we were breaking our neck
we
every
need
day.
each other. Right.
You know, we need each other.
We need each other.
If you ain't got nothing else, we need each other. We need somebody. If you live with somebody, you need that person. If you don't, you need to be reaching out to connect. We have to connect. When we don't connect, that's when we start having internal issues. When we start having internal issues, it starts coming out. We start doing destructive things. You know, and we have to connect, because regardless to how messed up your family might be, there's somebody in your family that you can connect with for support one way or the other. You got to keep trying.
Or extended family. Or extended some other family that God gave you.
Exactly. Somebody. You got to connect with somebody. And you have to, and if you don't have that, then you got to reach out there and try to develop it. You have to, because that's part of our strength. We are not strong by ourselves. We learned how to get by ourselves, but our strength comes from being part of that community, which starts with being part of a family. And like you said, whether it's a biological family or whether it's a chosen family. I have friends across the country I've been knowing for 30 years. I could show up tomorrow, knock on the door, and I'm coming in, and they're going to ask me, are you staying? And they'll point me to where I get a pillow and a blanket. That's family. No blood relation whatsoever, but over the years, family. You know, you have to have that. And that's part of our essence of our culture. We're welcoming, we're supportive, and we are communal. We have to have community. You know?
And oh my God, that ends it with the Juneteenth, being able to get together and celebrate who we are as a culture, who we are as a people. And because I come from my father and my parents, you know, owning our business in the city, we had to help our community. We had to do the work in the community. And it's like being the gathering and the celebration and having fun and being able to relax, just showing love to each other, eat and be merry, laugh, cry, and the whole nine. That's what togetherness and gathering is about. And like you said, we're communal. We
do
this
celebration of that community. Juneteenth is a celebration of the community. And I think a lot of people they think Juneteenth is celebrating the last, to me, Juneteenth is not about celebrating the last day of slavery. It's about celebrating us as a people. Yes. And that gives us a day that says, let's celebrate us. Yes. Let's celebrate all that we've been through. Let's celebrate all that we're doing. Let's celebrate all we can do. That's what Juneteenth is to me. I don't think about, this is the day that the last slaves found out that they was free. No, that's the past. What is the positive about it? To me, the positive is it's a gathering of people celebrating togetherness.
That's it. Well, good Lord. Michael, it has been a pleasure. And I just want to say B.H. Brilliant Minds Project, Inc. will continue to invite folks to celebrate the Juneteenth 196 2020 special edition. How we came up with Juneteenth 196 is this. If you were to count June the 19th to December the 31st, it's 196 days. Wow. So that's what the ancestors gave to us to continue to celebrate, you know, not just in June, but the whole all the way through December, and being able to take it on to the next years and years and years. So
I want to say this was amazing. Thank you. And you know, I'm always at your call. You call me anytime, anything, I am there. I love what you do. I love your energy. I love how you're constantly looking at ways to keep us connected as a people. So I'm in support any way I can.
Well, I thank you. And you know what, the theme we came up with this year is that it says, we are the breath of our ancestors. We would never break because we are history shakers and makers. And it is in honor of acknowledging that Black culture, Black minds, Black breath, and Black lives do matter. And we are saying it loud because we are Black and we are proud.
That's right. That's right.
And I want to thank my sponsor. It's the Winrose Fund Foundation of the Common Council Foundation. So we just want to thank them for giving us the opportunity to be able to do this Juneteenth special 2020 edition. And the interviews are being uploaded to www.B-HBrilliantMinds.org, where you can send family members and friends and your community to see your actual personal interview. Also, continuously remembering that if you have participated in the actual Juneteenth interview, that your voice, your comments, your picture will all be a part of us uploading it to our website and to the our YouTube channel. You are giving us the authorization to be able to use you, your voice, and your comments to be heard, and your picture to be taken. So again, Michael, I just want to say thank you. We are so grateful and honored to have you here. And this is not our first, it's not our last week. This is just the beginning of the work that we've been called to do. And I am so grateful again to have you as a friend, as my brother, to and you guys allowed me to be a part of your family. We are family, and we're so honored. Yes.
I got a question, fam.
Huh?
I got a question, fam. Do you make a male T-shirt like that?
Oh, I got you.
Like that
no, I got you.
I like the T-shirt. I love that.
You get the T-shirt too. You get the T-shirt.
That's nice. That's nice.
You get the T-shirt.
I like the edition.